I might be in a minority here, but A$AP Rocky did a very good job. My expectations were so low that A$AP calling Denzel a pussy on their phone conversation was so riveting. Highest to lowest, a brand new joint role by Spike Lee himself. Listen, this one is worth sparking up. It's your casual cinema, bro. Let's get to it. Highest to lowest, Denzel is a music mogul. He has the best ear in the game. In this movie, he's considering buying back his music company that he once owned. However, there's some problems that arise. He gets an anonymous call stating that some kidnappers have taken his son. Yes, Denzel's son has been kidnapped. Now Denzel must use the money that he was going to use to buy back his company to save his boy. And listen, that seems like a no-brainer, right? But here's where things get difficult. We later find out that the kidnappers stole the wrong kid. They didn't steal his son, they stole his godson. Now we go through the moral dilemma of, do I really have to pay for the kidnapper's mistake? I'm trying to buy a business. And that is essentially some of the plot there for highest to lowest. What I really loved about this film was the directing. Spike Lee really got in his old cinema bag. I don't know if it was intentional, but the pacing was very slow in the beginning, but it felt right. It didn't feel like it was just being slow to be slow. I love the different camera angles and different shots and the way he transitioned scenes. It really felt like an old 1990s, early 2000s film. Even the score with the classical orchestra and the jazz, and having it in scenes that you wouldn't expect to hear during intense dialogue. It was a little off-putting, but it somehow managed to kind of work. I also love how he was able to make this movie his own. And what I mean by that is Highest to Lowest is a remake of High to Low, 1960s Japanese film. In the original, instead of being a music mogul, it was a shoemaker at a shoe company. And instead of just remaking it, he really made it into a Spike Lee movie by adding his own themes, current day discussions on just how the elderly or youth view social media, the wealthy versus the poor, the state of music, where we're at in society. I've really enjoyed how he made this his own. I feel like most directors would have remade this movie without changing too much. Now we got talked about the acting. Denzel's the man. To no surprise, he was the best actor in this film. His performance, oddly enough, felt like Alonzo from Training Day if he wasn't a crooked cop. I can't explain it. The charisma, the commanding of the room. I know that sounds like duh, it's Denzel, but when you see him on film, you'll know what I mean. It's just something about the smile, the way he's able to just talk with people. You could tell it's just like, damn, like this is Alonzo in a different universe. Jeffrey Wright, I really enjoyed his role. He played the concerned father pretty well, especially when we found out his son was the one that was kidnapped. But due to his past and being an ex-convict and his status, he's being ignored by the cops. And so I really liked how he acted towards that level of dismissiveness. He played the trope of the ex-con / right-hand man / chauffeur driver to Denzel really well. Now we gotta talk about the surprise role of the movie, A$AP Rocky. I'm not gonna lie, I might be in a minority here, but A$AP Rocky did a very good job. My expectations were so low that A$AP calling Denzel a pussy on their phone conversation was so riveting. But in all seriousness, I thought there are two scenes where they had to face off against each other were just excellent. It showed how the youth and the older generation views social media or views being viral. After A$AP does what he does, his song becomes a #1 charting song in America, and now he feels like, hey, Denzel, sign me. Like, I'm hot right now. You gotta sign me. Then you have Denzel saying the tagline for the movie, not all money is good money. So it was just really excellent just to see those two face off against each other. I don't think A$AP outacted Denzel, but I definitely feel like he held his own for the most part. Now, I don't have too much bad to say about this movie. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but outside of like Denzel, Jeffrey Wright, and A$AP Rocky, the acting from everyone else was atrocious. I'm not sure if the budget got thin, but Spike, we gotta do better. If we had some better actors and actresses in this movie, aside from those three, this movie could have went to a whole nother level. For example, when we found out that Denzel's son was possibly kidnapped, I really didn't think the mom was. She ain't getting her mom back. Like, she wasn't distraught. It seemed like it took her a while to get there. I feel like I saw more emotion from her when Denzel was like, yo, like, I don't know if I'm trying to pay back this ransom. And she's like, I kind of feel you on that. Like, why should you? I definitely feel like the acting could have been better from everyone else. One of my favorite scenes from this movie was the ransom and kidnapping exchange. This is where Spike really uses the city of New York to his advantage. We got a subway scene with New York chants with a side of fuck Boston chants, We get to see the Puerto Rican Day Parade with a live performance while the exchange is going on and everything, and there's some complications there. Overall, this movie's like two NBA vets past their primes, still getting buckets because they have excellent footwork and fundamentals. Highest to Lowest plays like an old school cinema film in the way it was paced, the way it was shot, and having a seasoned vet like Denzel commanding the ship. Listen to Highest to Lowest is a slow burner filled with moral dilemmas tightly wrapped around themes and current day cultural topics. Grab a lighter because this joint is worth a spark. It's your casual cinema bro, and I'm out.